most important part is to understand what is your end vision to what you're trying to build, whether it's a one-stop shop, one-person provider, or you're going to become a more type of like multiple locations with multiple service types. And I think that will define very well what are the metrics that you need to start to capture.
You're selling an experience, you're selling an outcome, and all those touch points have to be authentic and they have to be something that's curated. And look no further to how social media advertising has evolved.
The risk is, friction between the practice and the patient. You need to fill out this form here. You need that login for that. You need to go to other app or website to do something else. The more hoops you make the patient jump through, creates friction and chances that something is not going to go right.
So when someone's booking an appointment, they're not just looking for a service, they're looking and seeking for care, confidence, and comfort. So your tech ecosystem should answer those questions, and it should be a seamless experience. So you want to make sure, whether it's your EMR, your CRM, your booking, your payments, they all need to be like speaking the same language, which should be like warm, clear, and consistent.
Good evening and welcome to the Business of Aesthetics Expert Panel webinar. This empowering discussion is designed to help you navigate challenges, leverage opportunities, and build a thriving career in aesthetics. Thank you for joining us, and a huge thanks to our panel of renowned industry leaders for being here. Tonight, we'll be sharing actionable strategies, best practices, and valuable insights to tackle the unique challenges aesthetic professionals face today. Let's also give a warm welcome to our panelists, Isaac Musley, Robin Diamond, Michael Zanetti, and Facundo Formica. It's truly great to have all of you with us tonight. Thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom and experience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lester. Welcome, everyone.
Today, with our Business of Aesthetics Expert panel, we'll be discussing a very unique topic, and that is the tech stack for Medspas, automating bookings, follow-ups, and consults. So whether you're streamlining your operations, scaling your Medspa, or simply looking for smarter ways to boost client satisfaction and revenue, tonight's discussion will meet you where you are and help you discover what's possible when automation, integration, and AI-powered tools work together to elevate the patient experience. So in today's expert panel, we will explore a few key points, and that is how to build a fully integrated tech ecosystem, automation tools that enhance follow-ups without losing the personal touch, AI-driven virtual consultation tools to increase conversions and satisfaction, and finally, how to avoid tech integration headaches and train staff effectively. So this is a live event, so please engage with your peers, ask questions, and share your reactions. We are confident you'll leave tonight equipped with actionable strategies you can implement immediately. So before we dive into tonight's conversation, I actually have a small question for the audience. Oops, sorry about that. So when potential patients search online for treatments you offer, does your practice actually show up, or are they finding your competitors instead? So this is a major challenge for many aesthetic practice owners. You might offer amazing services, but if you're not visible online, you're missing out on a steady stream of new patients. So the good news is there's always a solution. With the right digital marketing strategy, including local SEO, targeted ads, and funnel-based content marketing, you can not only attract more inquiries, but convert them into patients walking through your doors. Stick around until the end of tonight's panel webinar. We do have a gift that is prepared by the Business of Aesthetics, and we have something special for you, and that can help take your practice's online presence to the next level. So let me introduce our panelists tonight. First up, we have Isaac Musley, a seasoned entrepreneur, strategic advisor, and a national speaker with over 15 years of leadership experience in business analytics, operations, and practice management. He's the CEO of Get Kudos, a newly launched customer retention management platform designed to help in-person businesses drive loyalty, satisfaction, and long-term growth. Isaac is also the co-founder of the 4S Summit, bringing together thought leaders at the intersection of business and innovation. Isaac, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you for this discussion.
Thank you, Lester, and thanks all the attendees and audiences. I see a lot of famous or recognized names, so it's great to see all of you guys.
Next up, we have Robin Diamond, is the CEO and the founder of the Fifth & Co, a full-service marketing and innovation agency with over 20 years of experience. She's led digital and brand strategy for global names across wellness, retail, and tech. Known for transforming bold ideas into scalable and impactful solutions, Robin continues to advise executives and founders on how to innovate with emerging technology and smart marketing. Robin, we're thrilled to have you with us tonight. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you so much, and thank you for letting me be part of this.
Next up, we have Michael Zanetti, is the chairman of Erasable Medspas, an aesthetic institute and a high-performing organization that's known for delivering exceptional aesthetic outcomes and training professionals worldwide. Under his leadership, the brand has achieved double-digit growth and built a standout presence in Tampa. He also serves as the co-chair of AmSpa Florida and brings the discipline and insight of a former U.S. Army major decorated with the Bronze Star Medal. Michael, it's a real honor to have you with us. Welcome to the panel.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And finally, we have Facundo Formica, is the CEO of Simplast and seasoned technologist with over 20 years of innovation leadership. Under his guidance, Simplast has become a top-tier, all-in-one platform for aesthetic practices, helping plastic surgery clinics and med spas modernize operations, streamline communication, and improve patient outcomes through technology. Facundo, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Lester, and thank you everyone for attending. It's such an honor to be in a panel with Michael, Robin, and Isaac.
So we have a great lineup tonight, and I'm truly appreciative of each of you taking off your time to be here. On your screen, you'll see the main points for today's discussion. I'm confident will help deliver an insightful and amazing webinar. We also have some excellent questions prepared, and I'm going to dig into them with you. As mentioned earlier, feel free to engage with us through the chat, whether it's a happy face, a heart reaction, a thumbs up, or a comment. We love seeing your participation. So any questions you submit, I'll do my best into the live bring it to the live discussion. If not, rest assured, one of our podcast managers will get your questions answered and follow up with you afterwards. Also, again, a quick reminder, if you stick around until the end of this panel, we have something really cool surprise for you. With that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to get into tonight's discussion. This will be the first question to Isaac. So a bit about background for the question is that let's begin with the foundation, your data. With so many tools available, it's easy to collect everything but measure nothing. Knowing which metrics actually matter is what separates thriving med spas from those stuck guessing. So the question is, from a data and analytics standpoint, what are the key metrics med spas should track when integrating systems like EMRs, CRMs, and booking tools? And how can these insights inform smarter business decisions?
Thanks. That's a great question. And I actually see a lot of practices falling into that kind of like challenge, especially after they start to scale. I think that the most important part is to understand what is your end vision to what you're trying to build, whether it's a one-stop shop, one-person provider, or you're going to become a more type of like multiple locations with multiple service types. And I think that will define very well what are the metrics that you need to start to capture. There is the very core type of KPIs that I would always recommend for practices to capture, starting from the different type of conversion analysis, starting from all the way from obviously leads turning into the consult turning into patients. And I would always suggest, and very few, if any, of the practice management tools, so they even can allow you to see if they adopted treatment plans, which is ultimately a game changer within practices who are offering treatment plans, which again, not all of them do, but if the intent and the goal is to become a service that offer treatment plans, you should definitely look into something that can allow you to see that. On the back end, I think it's more from the revenue analysis. Your platform and the tools that you put together should really give you a good visibility to what works. the lead sources that generate for you the revenue, the different providers and their productivity, so the revenue per hour, the capacities. Those are a couple of those core KPIs that are, without them, you're going to just fly blind totally, and you're going to continue the guessing game. So I think that those are a couple of the very core, but ultimately, what I always recommend, and a lot of the practices that I work with around that KPIs and the metrics, we're always starting with what is the goals, right? And the goals can start, even form themselves when you start to define the patient experience. So what do you want to have in your practice, and how do you want it to look like? Do you want people to answer the phone instantly within 3 rings or within 10 minutes? And then you can consider using tools like a Podium, for example, or answering machines or anything like that, or you wouldn't care about that, right? If it's not part of what you want to accomplish. And that's just step number 1 of the practice, right? And after that, coming more and more steps, and how do you want things to look like? I think that will help also to define the different goals. And once you start to operate through that process and you have it defined, you can identify those weak areas becoming your KPIs. So I think those tools, regardless the ones that you choose, whether it's a Simplast or a Podium or whatever it is that you choose to use, you just need to make sure that it supports your vision and what you're trying to execute. And then obviously the data parts of it, right? It's what you're going to measure in order to accomplish that experience and that operation that you run. So I think that's really how it goes hand with hand. It's not just KPIs, because ultimately that's probably the question number 1 I've heard. What is the most important KPI? And I'm like, well, what is the most important KPI for you? Different stage of your life cycle as a practice have different KPIs, and your goals define different type of KPIs. And those are changing also all the time. Depends on the focus of your business. So I hope that is a good answer to your question, but I'll say there is a couple of core KPIs, but ultimately those are vary, and the additional ones are coming based on what you're trying to execute from your vision of what this practice needs to do.
Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, I think it's a powerful lens to kick off this panel. So I think what you meant is that basically understanding what are your core key goals, vision, and mission. So that's very important. Yeah. So moving on to Robin. So now let's talk about the emotional and creative side of automation. Just because we're using tech doesn't mean we want to feel like robots. So Robin, with your marketing background, you understand the importance of staying both efficient and on brand. As someone focused on digital growth, what are some creative ways Medspas can use CRM and automation to engage clients beyond reminders while still keeping messaging personal and on brand?
I think that's a great question, and it needs to go to the heart of your practice. And kind of to piggyback off of what Isaac said, at the core of your practice is trust. And so your tech ecosystem should reflect that from the very first click. So when someone's booking an appointment, they're not just looking for a service, they're looking and seeking for care, confidence, and comfort. So your tech ecosystem should answer those questions, and it should be a seamless experience. So you want to make sure, whether it's your EMR, your CRM, your booking, your payments, they all need to be like speaking the same language, which should be like warm, clear, and consistent. For me, as like a branding person and a marketing person, it needs to carry that heart of your company. Just like Isaac said, what are your goals? What are you trying to get to at the end result? And that needs to be the heart of your patient. So the best thing for a practice owner to do is ask their patient, where did you feel confused during this? Where were you frustrated from answering the phone or getting your payment or even being logged in the information? And this actually happened to me this week, so I can share that. It wasn't a seamless experience, and I really did get frustrated. I got thanked for my visit, yet I hadn't even gone and visited. So making sure that there's the real personal touch all the way through, and that it's an extension of your brand's values. Just like he said, you want to make sure that this is your messaging, your wording is relatable, and it creates an experience that's more relationship. And the only way you're going to do that is ask your clients, ask your patients, ask your friends, hey, where were you in this experience? And I think that's how you develop a good tech stack.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, that's a great reminder that tech should only, it should have that human touch, So, yeah. So Michael, follow-ups are critical, but if they're late or inconsistent, they can hurt trust. So Michael, you run a large large scale med spa with double-digit growth, so you know the stakes. So how are you using automation or CRM tools to keep patient follow-ups personalized and timely without making the experience feel robotic or impersonal?
Well, first off, I think it's great that I'm not actually last because normally these things are alphabetical. And most of the time in my life, I am dead last for all the things. So I appreciate that. I moved up in the rank. I thank you for that one. So, but to answer the question about automation, I too am a big believer that we're in the people business. And so, as much of the fact that we are a retail business that happens to practice medicine, and therefore, you're going to focus on the science and the technology, I look at it through the lens of how do I enable my people to use technology as what we would call in the Army a force multiplier. So I don't want to turn the business into something that is very cold and artificial and robotic, but I want to make sure that the person who's wearing multiple hats, which I think in our industry, it's fair to say almost everybody's going to wear multiple hats, you want the technology to help be in that extra set of hands. And so, as an example, if I want to get feedback on a particular appointment using your scheduling system and using something, whatever your EMR, your CRM is, there should be a capability for it to know clinically what's happening so that when an appointment is completed, it will automatically send out some kind of a notification that says, hey, how were things? What could we have done better? Or what did you love? You're trying to solicit that feedback so that you're not surprised, because some people you think are super happy, but they really weren't. Or people may come in and you think that they didn't have a great experience, and it turns out they loved everything. They just didn't feel comfortable, vocalizing that while they're in the office. So having a tool that will automate some of that, I think, is really helpful. But the difference is that's not a conversation, right? That's just a way of collecting a data point, and you're using the tool to bring the data points together. But when the patient is actually interacting with the practice, even if it's going to be through text message, which is generally the most common thing, there's a real person behind that, because they can craft and they can tweak every conversation, usually to include a tidbit that comes up during the patient's experience there. So if that person just got back from a vacation, our staff will intentionally put little nuggets like that in the communication as a subliminal way of saying, I'm not an AI, like I'm the actual person you talk to. So it's a sneaky way of not, you don't actually have to announce it. You're just, they know that no robot would know that piece of information. Kids are a great topic because a lot of the employees have kids. They're in school. They're going to talk about school things or sports, who went to the game, who's competing. And this is not anything that's a heavy lift, but it's a human touch. So when you scale, it's really important that your employees, if they're using things like AI to try and make their life easier, sure, go ahead and put in a spreadsheet and help it do some calculations. But don't necessarily rely on it to be the voice of your brand or the voice of your business, and put it front and center to where your customers are not actually talking to you or to your people, because you're selling an experience, you're selling an outcome, and all those touch points have to be authentic and they have to be something that's curated. And look no further to how social media advertising has evolved, right? If you take a glossy, stock photo and run an ad, it's going to tank because the consumer sees that and says, there's nothing unique about that. But the most viral content out there is sometimes the most non-professionally done content, but because it's authentic, it captures people's attention. And so I think that's really, how you can tie together using some of these tools, but maintaining the fact that there's real people behind those keyboards and behind those phones. And it's not just an algorithm that is doing the engaging. And if you keep your eye on that and remember that it's not just about, lowering your head count, but it's really about empowering the people you have, then I think you set yourself up for success.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, some great advice there. So I think it's basically having the end goal of patient experience, having the perfect patient experience while integrating AI. And yeah. So Facundo, Simplas is often described as the all-in-one system, but even then implementation is a major lift. You likely seen what makes or breaks it. So Simplas is often described as an all-in-one platform. What are the biggest mistakes practices make when trying to cobble together multiple tools, and how does that impact scalability?
Oh, thank you for the question. And again, thank you for having me. I love the different topics that we're covering, and hopefully they will come all together, because at the end of the day, things that I'm picking up is I heard Michael and Robin talk a lot about experience, patient experience. And that's the first thing that may suffer when you cobble a system together. Dr. Kusuma, founder of Simplast, he gave us a mission, and he said, we need to make sure that we deliver a wonderful patient experience, and that can be done when you have a tool that covers from the attract all the way to the life cycle of those patients. So the risk is friction between the practice and the patient. You need to fill out this form here. You need that login for that. You need to go to other app or website to do something else. The more hoops you make the patient jump through, creates friction and chances that something is not going to go right. And as Connie, a previous podcast panelist that you guys hosted, she said very well, they will come from your expertise, but they will come back for the experience. So you cannot put that at risk. And I think that that's one of the biggest things. And then, of course, the operational drag, because you're going to have employees that instead of taking care of the patient, they're going to be taking care of the business, right? The transactions and just entering data, copy, paste, move over, switch apps and things like that. That operational drag can actually have also an impact on that patient experience. And then to Isaac's KPIs, collecting all the data, bringing it from different systems, it's not impossible, but it's a lot of extra work that you could be investing into perfecting your craft rather than perfecting data analysis. So those are the different areas. And then the final one is, when you put all that together, you might feel like it's chaotic, and you cannot scale chaos. And in this day and age, you need to be able to scale. And to Michael's last point, it's not about adding or reducing staff. It's making sure that they are doing the right things, either delivering patient care, ensuring patient safety, or assisting to have an amazing experience where the patient is going to come back to your practice.
Incredibly helpful. Thank you, Facundo. Yeah, such a great insight about scalability on a practice. So yeah. So moving back to Isaac, so let's stay on automation for a moment. Since Isaac, you work closely with client loyalty at Get Kudos, there's a lot of nuance to how and when we reach out. So with customer loyalty at the core of your work at Get Kudos, what are some common mistakes you see practices make when automating patient follow-ups, and how can they maintain the human connection?
I'm going to touch a little bit because I think Michael really nailed it when he says like it's all of it is tools to help you to provide a better patient experience all in all. And I think that sometimes, again, even with tools like Get Kudos, I tell every customer the two main differentiators of every successful practice are the loyalty of your patients and the experience. And you can have the best loyalty program in the world, but if your experience is not great, nobody's going to stay loyal. And it's vice versa, right? You can have the best experience in the world, but if you're not enabling the loyalty and you don't give them a reason, they're not always going to remember and think about you more than 10 minutes after they left the office. It almost goes together. But I think that what I noticed many practices, and it's also differentiators to the very successful practices, and we're talking analyzing like the top 3% in the US, especially when it comes to Medspas, they don't call. They don't call with care to their patients. And I think that care is the most human element that no computers, no AI, nothing, no automation can replace. And so if it was a patient that it was the first time they ever even got the injections, right? Which for us is like, oh, everybody gets injections now. It's the first time they show a little concern, call them the same day later in the evening and say, how are you feeling? How is everything going? Was it hurt as much as you thought? Ask at the end of every visit, how was your experience today? To Michael's point, we do it in automation, right? Because we believe that if you ask them right there and then when they need to pay you, or if you're a provider, obviously they're not always going to tell you the truth, unless maybe they are Israelis as well. But most people will not tell you just straightforward how they feel if they're not feeling great. And even if they don't, then they're going to tell, oh yeah, it was great, and you're never going to see them again. The benchmark in the industry is 50% retention rate, which means 1 out of 2 people that come to see you never going to show up again. It's pretty bad. So the question of how's your experience today, follow up with the phone calls, remember personal details about them to pick them up again in conversations. Small things like that go very, very far. And I think that that is the human element that should not be overlooked or should set aside when treating patients. It's all about, at the end, the connections and the emotional part, and how do you make them feel and how much you truly care about them. And if you truly care about them, people knows it. And if you ask it just, hey, how was your day today? Great, let's inject you by, they know that as well. And I think so that's, to me, the most elements that are making the difference and overlooked a little bit when too much automations. And I think that automations are great, whether it's to answer after hours or stuff like that. But again, there is things that has to be by human, which is when you care about somebody, you pick up the phone and call and see, how was your day? Somebody came for you, traveled hours just to see you because he heard about you from their friends and family. Call after a couple of hours. Hey, how did you get back home? Good, good. Those kind of things sounds maybe a little annoying, small stuff, goes the farthest, I think, more than any automation.
Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, I think it's a great reminder to tell everyone that, automation should never come at the cost of connection. So, yes. So, okay, coming back to Robin. So when it comes to converting virtual consults and AI personalization, it's changing the game. So I'd love your take on that shift. So AI is changing how med spas communicate and convert. When marketing opportunities, what marketing opportunities do you see in virtual consult tools and AI-driven personalization that practices may be underutilizing?
I think we're underutilizing a lot when it comes to AI. And actually, I heard a podcast about this today, so it's super interesting. But we're at a turning point that everyone's using AI as a buzzword, but they're too scared of what it's going to be able to do. Some people are like, oh, I integrated ChatGPT in my social media post, and they think that's AI. But what we're seeing is today's owners in med spas and even CEOs they are saying this might be the last generation that's going to manage an all human workforce, because AI can help you lower your production or raise your production, but lower your body count in from 30 to 50%. With that, it's freeing us to focus on a higher level strategy and connection. And what I think people don't understand is it's AI is the car to get you to work faster and get you to focus on getting to work faster. It's not to just take over your life or do the work. So it's not taking your job. In med spas, we're seeing it being underutilized, especially because it's considered like a tech add-on and not an experience enhancer. And that is really the difference. What people are using it for is unintentional, but it should be intentional. It should be pre-qualifying leads, personalizing treatment paths. It can even deliver like certain tailored education before the provider walks into the room. And that's something that's important that will help you stand out, because it's educating your patient before you even walk in the room. It's making them feel comfortable. And like Isaac said, and like Michael said, it's personalizing that experience, and then leveraging that AI. We still need a real person. And I think this is where Simplast does a great job. They're an all-in-one, but they're saying you still need to be a person. So it's not just technology. It's really creating that deeper trust for better conversion and for the client to feel that interaction from the first touch point. And that's really what's important when using AI. AI is going nowhere. It's being incorporated every single day, and we need to not be scared of it, but also educate ourselves and our staff how to use it correctly.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, it's exciting how much of the client journey can be like enhanced before a patient can walk through your door. So, yeah. So, Michael, your team has worked with some of the top tools in the space, from Nextech to Cyton. You like to see in how AI is being integrated on the ground floor. So have you explored AI-driven virtual consults or facial analysis tools? If so, how have these technologies impacted your team's ability to convert and retain patients?
So I think there's two parts to that, right? Because one is saying you're doing a virtual consult of some sort, and then the other is facial analysis. And so I think for the virtual consult, I actually, encourage the staff to focus on getting people to come into the office because of the experience that they're going to get. Oftentimes the patient journey involves a lot of education. And if you simply use AI to shortcut getting to the answer that they think they want, which is how much does this thing cost? A lot of times you're going to miss all the other information that goes into a great consult. And because you're trying to help them solve a problem, more often than not, patients come in thinking, I want this particular service or I want this particular product because my friend got it or I saw it on Instagram or something to that effect. And if they ask you just how much is this? If you do it virtually, it's really tough to build a rapport relative to having them come in. And like we were all talking about before this meeting started, the idea of, everybody going on Zoom when we were not able to, go out and work and things during the COVID times. And yet while everybody became comfortable with that and using, video chatting is not weird anymore, the airlines are still growing. They're still in business. People are traveling to go face to face. And I think that's no different in a service industry like a med spa, where you really want to ensure that you're putting everything in front of the person. What is the smell when they walk in? What is the fragrance that they're going to associate with your building? How is everybody dressed? How are they greeting you? What are all the little, touch points that make them feel like, wow, this is really a great experience. And it's not just me asking a question about how much something costs. So I think in that regard, we don't use the AI to, manipulate a virtual consultation, because at that point we're racing to become a commodity, and I don't see that being value added. Now, where the AI can play a great role is what you were referring to as like the facial analysis tools, because now what you're doing is you're able to paint a picture of somebody who maybe has a lot of sun damage in their skin, or what the aging process may look like for them. So you're not necessarily going to promise like this is exactly what you're going to turn out, what you're going to look like if you get this treatment or that treatment. But what you are able to do is highlight very quickly things that maybe they don't notice because they see themselves in the mirror every day. And these kinds of tools can help become the third person in the room. So normally you think of a consultation as the provider and the patient, but when you use some of these analysis tools, the facial analysis tools, they become the third voice. So the provider isn't necessarily saying, wow, you really have this blemish that you should treat, or there's something here. It's the silent person who just kind of puts some data out there, and everybody can look at a picture, they can look at the image, they can look at the numbers and go, okay, there is something there. And it opens up the conversation about how do I address this particular concern, especially if it was something that maybe the patient didn't even consider before they walked in. So there's absolutely value in using these tools where AI can help paint that picture. But again, the key is it's a complement to the people that are there. It is not trying to, remove that in-person component. Otherwise it just becomes a race to the bottom.
Exactly. Fantastic insights. Thank you, Michael. So for Kundo, one challenge we hear often is how to balance automation with authenticity, especially in a field like aesthetics when trust is everything. So how can practices balance automation with personalization, especially in a field like aesthetics, where trust and connection are so critical to the patient journey?
Oh, great question. And really to the heart of what I believe, that is technology as an assistant, not a replacement to human connection. And the way I look at it is you need to automate the transaction, right? The transactional aspect of, commerce, service, etc. But you cannot automate the relationship building. Again, there are plenty of tools, ChatGPT or different LLMs that will help you retain information and then spit it back out. An example that's simple as what we did is the patient summary. Right before you go and see the patient, you can listen to a patient summary that, of course, is AI generated, but it's just scrub the whole patient file, finances, past history, EHR notes, and appointments, et cetera, and it just spits out, like who this patient is. So that you're not going to get the AI or Simplas to establish the connection with the patient. Is for you to leverage and then establish the connection with the patient. Michael referred to, remembering what their kids' names are or what sports they practice and things like that. Or, even beyond, like what they did last time, instead of asking them, oh, so you're here again for, remind me, what was it? That doesn't show connection. That shows transaction. What do you want? I'll deliver. Goodbye. And AI, I think, or not just AI, but different tools that automate tasks can help you get out of that task management and dealing with those transactional aspects, and instead just focus on the person. Because there are going to be two type of Medspas that are going to survive, right? We're going to certainly go through the commoditization, and those are going to be the ones that operate fantastically at high operational levels, just transactional. I need this done and go get it done out. I don't even remember the injector that took care of me. I just needed to get it done. And a different type that is going to be the concierge style. That is where relationship is everything. And then you're going to only automate the things that are going to remove the friction from that patient coming in and enjoying the time that they are with you. And of course, the outcomes are going to be the paramount, but experience will make up for a lot. And then finally, another thing, as I mentioned, that our founder said, we need to build it all, very digital, mobile first. We created secure messaging. This is back in 2018 as a core pillar of our system, because we cannot forget that we are Medspas, the medical part of it. And we have to be compliant with PHI to make sure that there's no leakage. And text message is super common, maybe more common than it should be. So one of the things that we did is app-to-app encrypted communication, almost like WhatsApp, but for medical purposes. That is, again, integrated into the workflows and integrated into the app that you use for everything else. And to Isaac's point, just take that time to ultra personalize. Don't rely on AI to send a message or something like that. You did your first time patient, right? First time patient found you somehow, likely via somebody that referred them through Get Kudos or technologies like that, or simply, at the gym or at the Mommy and Me. And what they're going to do is they're going to come and they're going to remember you very well. You need to remember them. So at the end of the day, send them a quick, kind of like the WhatsApp audio type of thing, or maybe a video, a selfie video. How did they go? Just a reminder. If you see some black and blue, it's natural, or I noticed that this or that. All those things will add to that personal touch. So don't automate those. Make them real, make them you, and leverage technology for the rest.
Yes, thank you, Facundo. Yeah, I think it's important, like you said, to understand that transactional element and integrating the personalization while you understand that. So perfect insights. So we are hearing a lot of buzz about AI, but many med spas aren't sure where to start. So Isaac, you're at the forefront of this space. So help us separate the hype from opportunity. AI is evolving fast. What are some exciting and underutilized applications of AI in patient engagement or consults that you think Medspas should be paying more attention to.
Ah, it's time for shout outs. No, I'm kidding. And Facundo, I didn't know you're also on the Mommy and Me group.
Well, that was almost 20
I don't
years.
know how you read that.
I still have memories.
I think that's going to be the best part of that whole
It's
thing.
a great one, yes. So I'll say that not to overlook by Medspas when it comes to AI tools. I think that some of the lead generations ones are a great one. I see that makes a big difference. A lot of, again, I think that some practices are a little bit over obsessed about the next new patient, not working enough on their existing one to generate them organic growth. That's clearly why we created Get Kudos. But even then, you still need new patients keep coming through the door. I think that a lot of those AIs do really cool things. There is an AI simulator like Entity Med, there is an Amos one, there is different types like that, or just the basic facial analysis, very similar to what Michael described. It works in the office, not necessarily for the lead generation, but improving of this consultation with new patients and really expose them to a lot of things that maybe they can do beyond just, I think I need a Botox above my eyebrow, something like that. So I'll say that's probably one of the main, something that at this point considered an old technology, but still so many websites are missing. It's just the AI chatbots. I think it's like a must. If you don't have it on your website, you have to have it on your website. And again, there is also the human engine that works, like site staff, stuff like that, companies like that. But the AI nowadays are amazing, can even sometimes deliver like great responses and much easier to adopt them into your practice and your brand and the way that you want it to sound or respond like and capture all the information. After hours answering, I think that's great one for an AI agent to put over there to pick up the phone. Sounds like human, take the information, at least somebody answers. It doesn't need to wait for the next day to somebody get back. There is no voicemail. Nobody leaves voicemails anymore. I think for, again, Get Kudos, we operate also a lot AI on that, chats, texting, stuff like that, learning what incentives works, how to optimize those. That's a great one. Simplest is describing of the meeting. I think this is one of the great, and I know that they also have a free version, so I see it all over the meetings as well. Give it, people love it. They just turn it on during the visit, so you don't need that true third person sitting and typing, or it doesn't need to be a provider. It looks into the screen, but they can connect with the patients while something else recording, summarizing, taking all the notes. That's a great one. And I've seen it already going all the way down to like devices, like a smart scales, like shape scale, for example, right? When you stand, you do the analysis, where did you lose weight, where did you gain, what's changed, stuff like that. It's also evolving with AI. And so I think that those are a couple of the core that I've seen that makes a big difference in practices who chose to adopt more and move into that direction. I'm totally on board with Robin. It's not something that holds in the future. It's current. It needs to be embraced. There is a lot of tools that are not baked, I'll call it, because not all of the stuff that people say that AI does actually do it. It's not, most of it's not well. If you do your post with ChatGPT, make sure you edit that with a human factor, remove the long dashes, do the right things, make it sound like you, or else they all sound the same, use the same emojis, and it's very easy to see it. And so I think that people sometimes overuse the stuff that are very kind of like accessible, not necessarily use stuff that they do need to pay a little bit and adopt and put in place, but there is other experts and there is many tools that are very easy to do. And so it's a little balance of trial and error, like we all, I think all of us says at the same time, between all the lines and very direct as well. It's all about what you're trying to deliver from the patient experience. You can also evolve that AI into that and use the tools. If you want that innovative practice, if it's better into more utilization of all of it. I've seen it in the waiting room. People do it for different skincare, already analysis and stuff like that. And there is others that are still want to do it a little bit more human. So it really depends on what the experience that you try to form. But some of those, I'll say like I mentioned before, like a podium, right? That can answer after hours, sending the text messages, automation, stuff like that. That is a must because those are just lost opportunities. If nobody answers fast enough or people busy on the phone, it can be a fallback, right? Those are kind of things that it's almost a must. To me, practices that don't do it, just missing opportunities. It's not even about adopting the AI.
Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, I really appreciate that. And yeah, you helped us, I think, visualize what's possible with AI, and not just what's popular, but also what's possible and how to integrate AI.
Thanks.
So yeah. So, Robin, when new tech is introduced, it can disrupt everything from workflows to communication, and you've guided brands through these transitions. So, when new tech is introduced, it can disrupt branding or workflow. What advice do you have for MedSpa leaders to implement new systems while keeping their marketing team and client communications consistent?
I think this is super important, and all the gentlemen have spoke about it, whether it's, get kudos, but then what are you doing with that feedback? Same class with Simplast. If you're putting the notes in there, but no one's following up and no one's doing that quick call, and Michael's led, such great production with who he has working on his team. You look back at that, but there's always that human touch. And I think that is the biggest issue. So what happens and what we see as, a marketing team or innovation team that comes into a practice is we'll see these new technologies purchased and there is no clear vision of what they're doing. And it's almost like the technologies don't talk to each other. And then the practice owner doesn't talk to their team about it. And we see a lot of pushback from the team on, well, I'm not going to use it. If someone's been working for 18 years answering your phones and all of a sudden you put a new system, it's very challenging for them. On top of it, they've already created workflow processes. So it's really embedding what is your main point. And I think every single one of these gentlemen talked about it. What are you doing with this? What is your KPI? If it's to create clarity and then a follow-up, let's do 2 KPIs. We cannot do 17. Let's do 2. Let's focus on those for a quarter, come up with a streamlined process. Then after that, as the owner, you need to sit there and say, okay, this is what we're doing with our team. This is how we're going to engage it and make it fun for that team. Make sure all the teams are talking. So your operations team or your patient care team needs to talk to your marketing team because they will throw off a system so quickly. And I can tell you that if they're pushing something that's not aligned with it, or they're not doing follow-ups, or someone's coming in from social and you're not capturing that into your CRM, or no one's following up with a patient journey after that, like Isaac said, 50% are lost. So you see 2 people, one's only coming back. And that personal touch that Facunda talked about is so important with that. So making sure that your team is fully integrated in your technology, making sure that they're bought in during the training process. And what we say is we create there's an automation and then there's a in-person script. And your automation and your in-person script should look pretty much the same. And it still needs to feel like the same voice because technology is really like an extension of your brand. So your whatever you're using with whether it's AI, it needs to respond like you. Like Isaac said, take out the dashes. We all know that you're using AI to write that email. Change it to a few of your own words. Put that in there. It's like not dear valued customer. Like that's the worst email to get in your whole life. So it's like, hey, what was your experience? Those little things that Facunda talked about, like, okay, they drove so far or they had this going on, or what Michael talked about is that third person in the room. Make that third person in the room talk about their skincare needs when they're doing that. And have your team bought in. If your team is not bought in, that is going to be your problem. And I think that's the biggest thing we see as owners or med spa leaders or CEOs. They don't have their team bought in and they don't explain how this is not taking their job. It's helping their job be a lot easier. It's taking the stupid burden so they can focus on what they really care about and what we all care about, which is our patients' needs.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I think your advice on alignment is something very special, and every growing practice needs to hear. So, thank you for that. All right. So, Michael, onboarding new tech isn't just about the tool; it's about the people you trained, teams at scale, and I love your insight on adoption. So, what are some real-world challenges you faced when onboarding staff to new tech platforms, and what strategies helped ensure successful adoption across your team?
Learning new tech is always going to be a challenge, even for people who might consider themselves tech savvy, because it's change and it's going to interrupt your workflow. And anybody who's ever migrated systems, holy smokes, that is a feat unto itself. And it's not something that you're going to want to do again if you can help it, especially if you've got a lot of data. So one of the things that I took from the Army is this concept of, see one, do one, teach one. And whenever we have something that is tech related and we want to train staff and train people on it, we realize that death by PowerPoint is only going to get you so far. So what we'll do is we'll break up into modules what people need to learn, and they will get it in that lecture format. but then very quickly they're going to be given the ability to do it where they actually have to execute using the software and practice. But then the final part is they actually have to teach somebody how to do it. And what we do is we kind of kill two birds with one stone. We'll use Loom to record a video of that person teaching. So they'll go and say, how do I process a refund? And instead of them just verbalizing it, they're going to make a little video and record their screen as they go through the steps for processing a refund. That then becomes archived as part of the operating procedures for the office. So not only did they get to prove that they learned that particular skill, but they also created something that's now memorialized for everybody else to go and reference and watch in real time if they need it. And when people have to explain something to somebody else, it really exposes whether they truly understand it or if they were just copying what somebody else did, but they don't get the why behind it. So see one, do one, teach one. That would be my takeaway for onboarding new tech.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, Facundo, you want to add something?
I love it. Michael, that's very impressive. I'm gonna remember that one.
I think that's amazing, Michael. And we have a battle buddy system. So to go to your military, my family's military, we have a battle buddy. So we train in twos. And that way they feel comfortable asking questions and we find that they teach each other. So I like your method and I think that's great. But we always try to pair people in battle buddies so they always feel like they have someone who has their six constantly. So I love yours. I think we're going to steal that just in case you hear me say it some other time.
Isaac, any thoughts?
I think that I love what was said over here. I love Michael. I love the 1-1-1 or the 2-2-2. I think all of it is great. What I've noticed also in some practices, it's a culture aspect. And I think that if we don't have the right culture of adopting and innovating and change is a big word for some people, massive word. And especially in some practices when they started just with that same employee and that first employee became the manager of the place and shooting some of the calls that the practice will do or will not do. And they're there for 15 years and this is how they do things. And I think that if you don't have those people in the right place of innovation and changes and evolving, that becomes a big problem of whatever you're going to want to change, whether it's a new device, new technology, AI, or you name it, any change of the process, just not the same way that we've done things all the time. And I think that to me, that is the biggest challenge in most practices, more than even how to teach them. It's the resistance to make sure that the team is ready to adopt. I know some practices who go and buy every new shiny thing. And the practice love to adopt it and they love new things and they ask all the questions and it's collaborative learning and adoption and half of it is never going to be used, right? Because it's just not good, even though they try it, but they're excited to try it. And I think that that is something that some practices are lack of and nobody to insult anybody, right? But I used to call this technology, this industry like technophobic because it's like, oh my God, new thing, we're doing healthcare. This is what we love to do. This is what we know how to do. And when it comes to technology, it's almost kind of like that stranger body over there, right? And so I think that finding the right culture, which goes also with finding the right people and be able to make it a safe environment of also the people that are maybe from different generation to be able to say, I don't know, show me again and explain it to me and be with a supportive environment because some people will adapt to it faster than others. And I'm a big believer even from the days of Simplast and far before that, you always need to have champions into those different practices. Bring something new, somebody needs to champion it. And if you don't have any champion from within, you will have a struggle, regardless what is it that you're trying to adopt into those practices. So I think that culture has a very big factor on getting new things into any practice, regardless to what it is.
Isaac and Lester, I think that this actually is uncovering a fantastic topic because we can talk about technology all day and the different pieces of technology, if they should be integrated or not, and this and that. But at the end of the day, and I loved it, I got the pleasure to visit Forest in Chicago a couple of weeks ago, and I love, that Terry Ross spent some time on the growth mindset or not, right? And you need people that are going to be in that growth mindset, not the fixed mindset. And it is attitude. Even employees, regardless of the age, they can be very scared of technology. But then they go and they use their electric vehicle or their iPhone, right? And it's all technology, and they use the microwave and they program it, delayed start and all that. But it's all how you are with the what kind of mindset you have when it comes to work. And that is when having that team comes actually from leadership. And I think that that's another challenge that in this industry. And we work with a lot of plastic surgeons, right? We come from plastic surgery and medical spa. They're surgeons. In this case, you have a more, in the Medspas side, you have a lot more entrepreneurs and people with that growth mindset that will take the lead. But regardless of your background, when you own a med spa or any aesthetic business, you have to have the right level of leadership. You need to just go and you tell them this is the way we go, and we move forward. So bottom line is adopting the technology. It's is really the biggest part of the battle.
Yeah. And I would say that there is some practices that when we that start to adopt, get kudos even before making the decision. It's important for them to bring the team to see the demo, to ask the question before they make the final decision. Ultimately, the decision was kind of made already, but it's still to get the buy-in of everybody. So it's part of the culture. Everybody decide together, right? So even if there is a one person on the side of the room that has some question, he can get it addressed and everybody's happy. And so I think it's that is the part of the leadership, is really to get everybody beyond. And so we goes to like the culture. I give a lot of the talks about that, right? Even when you hire a new person, you don't just be the only one to the interview, right? You're going to pass them around. Some other people will know, so you can have a soft blend. I think technology is exactly the same, regardless of what it is, whether it's device, software, any type of tool. People need to give their opinions, and it's a team effort, the entire success of the practice. And that's how
Sorry, I need to add to that one too. I mean, I love it. I said that's very insightful because, again, we talk about all the different technology and the tech stack, but we cannot forget that culture, and especially when you're designing the overall tech stack. Because buying a laser or any device, it will affect only a couple people in the practice, but when you're designing your tech stack, it's going to be everybody. Everybody will be affected by that. And if you don't have the right culture and the right level of adoption, your business is at risk.
Exactly. Michael, any final thoughts you want to add to this?
I think the common theme that, if you haven't picked up on it, is technology is great and everybody needs to understand how to use it. Don't be afraid of it, but realize that you shouldn't be a slave to the technology. Don't make your business conform just to what the software lets you do. Realize that it's a people business. The software is there to work for you, and therefore make sure that you keep your eye on your people and your culture and what you have built, and use the tech to augment that, but don't make it force you to change who you are and how you're running things. And from time immemorial, we will always invent and try to come up with new things and better ways of doing it. But we're still people. We love storytelling, and that's going to be the thing that sets us apart. So keep your eye on your biggest asset, which is your people.
Perfect. Robin, any thoughts? Final thoughts?
I'm just reiterating what everyone said. I think it's really people first. And obviously with our name, Fifth and Core, it literally means heart. So it's bringing your senses into heart and looking at everybody and actually asking your employees and talking to them, but then also making sure that they have buy-in, but also make sure your patients do too. Because if your patients don't have buy-in, I always say, like, ask somebody who's 70, ask your neighbor if they can log into it. If they can't find something on your site, then you didn't make it easy enough. If they can't find how to check in, then you didn't make it easy enough, because they're the ones that you want and they're like spending money. Make it easy for everybody and it become adaptable. And don't get frustrated. Ask for outside help. Sometimes you need a champion outside to come in and be like, hey, this is why we're doing this. It's to make it a little bit easier for your team and drive that culture. Innovation can die. And even in my own business, I hire people who are smarter than me, because at any point, they're going to outthink me and they're bringing new ideas. And you need that as a business owner. And so don't get stuck. And we are in an industry that kind of gets stuck on its own technology. I always hear, we've always done it this way. And I'm like, If you've always done what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. You got to change it up and you got to integrate those. And I love what these gentlemen said about people and culture. You have to get their buy-in.
Great, great. Perfect discussion. I just realized the time was flying tonight. It was a great discussion. Like, give me a second. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so I would love to keep going, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Tonight has been awesome. So many comprehensive answers, valuable takeaways, and rich insights. Thank you all so much. So before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've explored tonight. We talked about a lot of things about right tech stack, how it can transform your Medspa from automating follow-ups to elevating virtual consults, streamlining operations, and creating a more personalized client journey. But to be honest, even the best tools won't make a difference if your ideal patients aren't finding you in the first place. So I think you remembered if you were in the previously, if you joined beginning at the session, I said there's a gift, a complimentary gift. So just like that. So yeah, so that is this gift. So basically, we promise something of real value. It's not just a thank you gift; it's a direct extension of what we've been discussing. That is building a smarter and a more connected growth engine for your practice. So this is a complimentary practice growth session strategy consultation from Naren Aluraja, who is the founder of Business of Aesthetics and CEO of Eco Marketing. He's offering you it as a thank you for joining us tonight. You'll meet with Lila Stone, the marketing advisor for Business of Aesthetics. If you don't know her yet, she helps hundreds of aesthetic professionals and practices grow by improving their visibility, SEO, reputation, and more. So what makes this different is that Lila will actually study your online presence, your local competition, and your search rankings before your call, and then she'll walk you through personalized insights for your practice. So this is basically, it's going to help you understand your online visibility. So there's a QR code on your screen. You can scan that, or you can check the link in chat to book that complimentary session for you, for your practice. So think about it. You might have these questions. Are people in your area finding you online? Are they choosing you when they do? And is your marketing working when your clinic is closed? So these are some questions you might need to ask yourself. Ask from your marketing as well. So this session helps you answer those questions and fix what's missing. So I'll leave that with you to basically go ahead and take that decision. Again, I'm gonna tell you that this is going to be time well spent, and yeah. So with that, our time has come to an end, and it has been awesome. First of all, thank you to our expert panelists, Isaac Musley, Robin Diamond, Michael Zanetti, and Facundo Formica. You all were amazing. You shared so much insight, amazing best practices, and wonderful actionable content. If I were to sum it up, I'd say collectively, you made the complex simple, the hidden visible, and the difficult easy.
Thank you.
Secondly, thank you to all of attendees for the privilege of your time and participation. Without you, we don't grow together. Without you, we don't set each other up for success. A reminder to like, share, and review us on your favorite social media. And stay connected with our panelists if you like a deeper conversation like this. So until next time, on behalf of our panelists, keep striving for excellence and exceptional patient care. Thank you again for being with us tonight. We will see you at the next expert panel series. Until then, take care and good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.